Hello, welcome to this live stream from the OSCEdays and Disruptive Innovation Festival Open Labs on the Circular City. In this live stream, we are going to explain you the phase 2 of the Open Labs that are starting today, and we will also wrap up a little bit what happened so far. And I want to mention that this stream is open for people to join. So we are happy to welcome you here and see your face and hear your voice, and you are invited to share your ideas and perspectives about the circular city. You can find a link to join if you visit the Open Labs website. There's a link to the video streaming page, and under the streaming we are having right now, there's a link to join, and just click it and you will be here and can talk with us. But before we start, let's have a little introduction. Sharon, Franz, and Sego, maybe you say a few words about you.
Hi, my name is Sharon Prendeville, and I am a lecturer in design innovation at Loughborough University in the UK, and I mainly work on the role of design in enabling circular economy.
Hi, my name is Frans Prins. I'm from the Netherlands, but I live in Berlin at the moment. I work as a creative project Kickstarter and entrepreneur with a focus on sustainable design. And right now I'm running the communications with Open Labs.
Hi, I'm Sergey Romson. I guess I'm a circular economy consultant. I arranged the 2016 event in Cambridge, UK, and more recently I've been studying the social enterprises that are in the circular economy space and seeing how we can be more distributed in terms of growing the circular economy.
And Sego has a little cold. Usually his voice sounds much clearer. Yeah, and my name is Lars Zimmermann. I'm an artist and economist, and I am based in Berlin. Okay, let's talk about the Open Labs, just to wrap up what it is. The Open Labs are a collaboration between the Open Source Circular Economy Days and the Disruptive Innovation Festival, and it's divided into 3 phases. So the first phase is the phase that is still running, and it will continue to run in parallel to the other phases that are starting now. And the first phase was about brainstorming. We had a topic on our forum where people were invited to contribute and post ideas or projects or whatever about the circular city, so we can have a huge brainstorming collection. And phase 2 is to take some of these ideas and turn them into actions. These are practical step-by-step guides everyone in the world can follow. In phase 3 of the labs, which is about little local activities where people take these actions and implement them in local events. But before we talk a little bit more about these actions, let's wrap up what happened during phase 1. I think there were some pretty interesting ideas shared in our open collection thread and also in the diff program. And I know, Sego, Franz, and Sharon, that you have been following. What was one of your favorite ideas from the discussion so far? Or maybe what is one of your favorite ideas about the circular city at all? Sharon?
Yeah, through our work here in Loughborough, I have been studying the concept of circular cities in northwestern European countries. So we've been looking at examples in Scotland, in the Netherlands, looking at Amsterdam and Rotterdam, because the Dutch government has committed to developing the Netherlands as a circular hotspot. So for this reason, there's lots of interesting stuff happening there. And I think two very interesting community-led examples are that of Bouksloterham in North Amsterdam, which I think was originally an old shipyard and a kind of decaying industrial area that has kind of been reclaimed by a community who kind of set it up as a living lab, a circular living lab. I think it started off bottom up, but they have got some government support now. So it's really quite a lively initiative where they're looking at self-built homes, at closed loop materials cycles, also looking at solar panels for self-sufficient energy and things. And really this kind of community initiative is led by a vision that they kind of develop themselves. So there are other examples, and I think that this grassroots approach is really where you see the innovation for circular economy and the implementation of circular cities.
Cool. Franz,
Yeah.
maybe next?
I'm generally quite flashed about the diff program and what's happening so far and still happening. the DIF festival, they bring together innovative views, and I think that's different views, and they interact, these views. They can benefit from each other, like ideas like basic income and sharing economy and circular economy. Like, how can a basic income and a sharing economy support regenerative circular city? Like, a concrete example would be by renting clothing instead of owning it. Or a discussion on collaborative intelligence about co-creation. We are, with the DIF and also with the Open Labs, we are connecting the dots of the puzzle called future, so to say. And with the Open Labs, we're making this concrete, and I like that about it. It's about crowdsourcing ideas and about communities. What can communities and people locally do themselves, and yeah, have these ideas come together.
Cool. Sego?
I can add to sorry, what Franz was saying. What I've been really impressed by is some of the documentation that's going on, because sometimes that can be a struggle in the kind of open source area. But some of the examples that I've seen, for example, Mika from Berlin, who's been pushing a food policy paper. I'm a chair of a small kind of urban farm in London, and some of the ideas that are coming through there just have direct applicability to what I have connections with there. So even if it's not exactly aligned to urban farms in particular, I can still pick up so many great ideas just kind of surfing through the platform. So really back up what Franz was saying there.
Cool. Hey, and we had just Joe from the Disruptive Innovation Festival joining us. We are in the wrap-up phase 1 of the labs, and also looking a little bit back on what happened so far in the diff. Do you want to share 1 or 2 things, Joe, or do you want to just listen for now?
Yeah, thanks for posting the link so people can just join. We should do more of that. That's awesome. Yeah, so great to hear what's going on with Open Labs so far. As I said to you in our conversation yesterday, Lars, this is probably the biggest week in world news that that many people can remember. So it's great to, I think, have something that can maybe divert people's attention away from some of the negativity, which is understandable at this stage for sure, but hopefully channel people to something local and positive through Open Labs and the actions that your team are trying to stimulate. In terms of the diff so far, I think just picking up on Franz's point, it is about disparate or seemingly disparate ideas coming together and being shared. And I'm not sure if it's a quote from Paul Mason himself, but he mentioned in our live launch on Monday that information wants to be free, and that is, I guess, a part of the diff as well. So we have this abundance of sessions, 270 I think this year, on all different sorts of topics, in the name of sharing and collaborating, and joining together some ideas that might seem unrelated to start with, but are linked to a shift in the way that the economy works and the creation of a future that we actually want. So Open Labs are fundamentally part of that. I've tuned in to hear what's going on, and to find out with the diff audience that's following online.
Cool. Stay with us. There's another spot where we can share.
I certainly will.
Yeah. And I just also want to share one of my favorite ideas from the discussion we had in the Open Lab so far. It's, I think, B from Seattle or Chicago. I think from Seattle. She was posting that the transformation to the circular city needs to be fun. And she plays with the idea of urban gaming. So create urban games that can move forward the shift to the circular city. And I really like that idea. And I also saw that someone has posted in the thread a link to something called Play the Circular City Tour. So apparently someone already created a urban game on transforming the city to a circular one. I haven't checked this one, but I will do. And I invite you to do this also, because maybe this is something we can take and use also during phase 2, which is about the creation of action. And let me just explain a little bit this action idea. Action protocols is the idea of the OSCEdays, that you can take a very complex process or idea and transform it into a very simple step-by-step guide that everyone in the world can understand, and then take and start to play with it. So follow the steps and implement the idea in their city, in their local area. For example, during a local event. And the goal of the Open Labs is that we can now take some of the ideas we discussed in the phase 1 and transform those ideas into such action protocols. So we can then take them and make them available for everyone in the world, not just during the Open Labs or during the Disruptive Innovation Festival, but also afterwards, so that they can be always taken by people in the world to make impact. And there are several ways how you can use an action protocol. You can, for example, use it to show your existing projects and show how people can make contributions to this project. Or if you have an idea that worked for you and you think, hey, why not other people in the world do this also, then just write it down in the form of an action protocol and enable them to do this. And right now, so far from the discussions we had during phase 1, already 5 ideas and projects for action protocols have emerged, and we will just wrap up these ideas. And of course, you are invited to add new ideas and start development of an action protocol every time. There is a very clear template for an action protocol, and you can find it on the Open Labs website. But for the ideas we had so far, the first one I really liked was about food policy. Maybe someone, Franz, do you want to explain the food policy action?
Yeah, the food policy action, this is about writing a food policy paper for creating a circular city. So this is about all kinds of topics, like creating an edible city where the city creates its own food, to how to cope with food waste, how to use the rests that are there, so to create an edible city. And for that, writing a food policy paper right now. The focus is on Berlin, what's happening already, what can be done. But the idea is to, from that, bring this to a global level, how to have a policy paper that everyone can also give their inputs in, and which can be used globally.
Cool. Yeah, and the second action that is already fully developed, I think, or almost fully developed, it's about a circle dinner. I think they will run this in Berlin. The idea is that for a circular city, a lot of organizations from the state and just companies need to find new ways to talk to each other and collaborate with each other. And they're going to kick off this new collaboration through a dinner. It's called a circle dinner, which has a very special methodology. It's framed under a common narrative, and then there's a main question everyone on the table answers, and the moderation guides the conversation towards to the goal to create really meaningful networks that can then become active and really start to change the city. I really like that action. It's there, you can take it, invite some officials from your city and run a circle dinner with them. And the third action idea that was posted is about mapping organizations. Maybe Sego, you can tell a little bit about it.
Sure, yeah. So actually there's only a couple of lines up there at the moment, and that's my fault because I've been ill, but there should be more documentation coming later. Essentially, it's pretty simple. It's getting people to suggest circular organizations in your local area and mapping it. There's an organization called Cambridge Carbon Footprint in Cambridge, here in the UK, who I've worked with on a few kind of circular events, and we've got a big circular festival tomorrow, and so I'm going to have a little stall there talking about some of the social enterprises I visited. But as part of that, I thought it would be nice to get people to suggest charity shops that do reuse or refurbishment social enterprises like a mouse, etc. And actually, Circular Cambridge have already got a decent map, so I'm going to be stealing a lot of their data points. I have talked to them, and basically trying to add a bit more and putting all these on a open source map and basically making it available on the forum. And the hope is that other people can go and replicate this across the world, because I've heard quite a lot from, when you step away from the kind of strategic policy level, and when you're trying to actually get this done day to day, a lot of people just don't know how to enact the circular economy. So if they knew that actually there's a charity shop down the road and they could just give away their clothes, etc., rather than do whatever and drop it off in a bin that's going to get shredded. It's all those little things that help the transition. So the hope is that the map can be a go-to place to just check on where one might go to move everyone towards that circular transition. So that's the hope. I'll be putting up some more documentation today once I've loaded a few start of 10 items, and yeah, tomorrow hopefully I'll be able to populate a bit more and share with the world.
No hurry, the phase is running for a while. Sharon?
Yeah, I think I just want to pick up on this point about what citizens can do, and this idea of public engagement and public action, because I think in what we see in the kind of circular city narrative that is growing by the day, we're seeing more and more initiatives looking at circular cities. And we have the upcoming Circular Economy European Summit happening in Barcelona this month. And we see cities like Paris, like Glasgow, like Helsinki, with their top-down, policy-driven circular city strategies. But actually what we see from kind of the more historic sustainable urbanization initiatives is it is fundamentally about participant engagement. It's about citizen engagement. And I think co-creating these food policies and this kind of circular map is a really important way to engage the public in ownership of circular economy. So I really think that, this particular project, I think, is very powerful, and we need to do more of this.
Sharon, sorry to just jump in. I'd love to hear more at some point about some of those historical kind of parallels. Maybe that's something we can just chat about in the comment section or something. But those with my communication sort of hat on, telling those stories and putting in some historical context of other types of urban development I'd find really useful and interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's lots of examples to draw on from community energy programs in the UK, some being more or less successful, but I think the key message is that, yes, we need the top-down strategy, we need government involvement, we need policies, but we also need platforms like OSCEdays to run and implement solutions at very much a grassroots local level.
Yeah, great. And if you have a link to a website or maybe to a paper, you can share this, for example, in the open collection thread about the circular city, if the paper is free access.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. And regarding grassroots actions, we have two more actions that are already in development. There's one about a currency, a communal currency. Maybe Franz will explain it to us, this action.
Yeah, the communal currency action. This action is about creating a community currency backed in organic waste. There's a group in Madrid. They're currently testing this, and there will also be a local event in Madrid on the 18th, and they will share the results of their testings of this currency so far. So other communities can also start to experiment with it, and their findings so far are that this is really an interesting approach to activate the possibilities of increasing the good use of organic waste in cities. Yeah, so they really already see an increasement. So, and it's nice because they do this locally, and then we can lab it around the world.
Cool. Yeah, and action number 5 that is already in development, I do this with Mi Factory, and I already mentioned it in the first streaming. I'm fascinated with open modularity. So to design things in a city that work like Lego or Meccano, so you don't have to throw away old structures because you can reuse the parts always for the new structures you are needing at the moment. And in this action about creating a hackathon, I share, of course, documentation about how to work with such a grid and where you can find those documentation on the web. And then I share some ideas about urban mining, how to source materials for such a hackathon, and then how to invite people, and then how to run this hackathon and document the outcomes of the hackathon so that others that want to run a hackathon on with open modularity can build upon the stuff that has already happened. And this action is in development. I'm happy about your comments there, and we are going to run this first edition of this action here in Berlin at the end of the DIF festival. Okay, so much for the actions that are already in development. As said, we are very happy if you contribute still to the discussion, the open collection about the circular city. And if you find ideas that you think this should be an action, start to write it. There are people that will help you to do this, that are a little bit experienced with using the format of an action. There's a template for the action on the forum. And yeah, hopefully we will see you there and start to collaborate. And now we end this this little streaming here, maybe with one last final statement from each of us about the circular city or about the open labs. Is there anything you want to share and give our audience here? Maybe Sharon, you can start again.
I think it's a fantastic initiative, and thank you to Lars and Franz for doing so much to organize it. And yeah, I'm just really excited to see what comes out. I would love to be more involved in actually doing the actions, but unfortunately I teach all day every day, so I don't have the time for that. But yeah, super, well done to everyone.
Yeah, I have actually 2 statements. One is we have already quite some input now on the forum, but there's probably more people with ideas around, so don't have a forum fear. It's actually pretty easy, I must say, to log in and share your ideas. And it doesn't have to be like a fixed thing. It can also be an idea that still develops into an action later on. So post your ideas, share it, and be part of this great possibility to connect ideas on a global level and connect to the DIF community as well. So, and the other thing is the next screening date is in about a week. It will also contain a live connection to our event in Las Palmas de Gran Canaria. And it will be on Friday, the 18th of November at 11 EM GMT. So if you like, be there, give your inputs, ask questions, yes.
Final statement maybe from Joe?
I mean, I also have 2 things, well, more than 2, but I'll keep it to 2 for everyone's sake. Firstly, a massive thank you to the OSCEdays team for putting this together. It's always been the intention of the Festival Labs element of DIF, and certainly to have an element of DIF that speaks to people who want to stimulate local action, whether that's through a Fab Lab or Makerspace, which is really where this started from, but really through any kind of more hands-on approaches. And hearing the projects that are in development now is the actions. I'm overjoyed to see some coming through, and the diversity as well. I really like that that point about the shift to a circular city needs to be fun, and I think that's really important. One thing I would urge people watching either live or on catch up to remember is that as well as creating an action, which we'd love to see more of, using someone else's action recipe is also vital. And I think that that's something that it seems to be key. These aren't just things people are developing for their own individual benefit, but something that can be replicated around the world. And the one that appeals to me and my stomach is the circular dinner, which is something I definitely think we should try and replicate here in COWS DIF headquarters. So thank you for sharing the projects that are working so far. We've actually got the team from the Greater London Authority sat about 2 meters that way. They're in the studio today to talk about SMEs in London, and I definitely think they should watch this session on Catch Up and find out how they should be they could be collaborating from the city level, because there's that top-down approach that we mentioned, but even coming from the top down, I think there's an appeal in the open source way of doing things. So thanks once again.
Cool. And Sego.
Yeah, and I think really to kind of connect to what Joe just said, I think there's actually quite an important piece. I believe in both. I think the policy and strategy level is obviously key, but if people aren't willing to do what's required of them from a policy strategy standpoint, it's not going to happen. So it needs to be married, and that's why I'm very happy about this kind of collaboration with DIF that's going on now, because it's really connecting the two. And I hope that maybe not just this November DIF period, but beyond, if the Ellen MacArthur Foundation and OSCEdays could keep in touch, and maybe it could be a conduit for sharing some of the successes and actually getting the more grassroots element published, if you like, in the more kind of strategic and policy level within those actors. I think that's really key. It's all about connections, and obviously it's about building resilience and et cetera, et cetera. That's all part of the circular economy, and I think it's important that people in this forum, and hopefully people watching it later, take that on board too.
Cool. Thank you. I already talked so much, so I will keep it very short. If you love the circle dinner action, I think you will be thrilled that there will be a similar action coming online, because I know that the local organizers in Las Palmas de Gran Canaria also collect a lot of people from different organizations in their city, and they also created a methodology to make them engage in a meaningful, productive discussion. And they will share this methodology in the form of an action in the following week. And there I was at a local event. So as we said earlier, all the actions created, you are invited to set up a little local event in the last phase of the Open Labs and in the last week of the DIF Festival, to bring together some people, take some of the actions that were created and just play with it, test it. It doesn't have to be a big event. It can be very small, just 4 people in a room, if they play with the action and then give feedback if it works or not, because an action can always be developed further. And we have already 4 events on the map, and we are happy to see more. Just follow the procedure, register your event, and become part of the DIF Festival and the OSCEdays Open Labs. Thank you, and see you in the next stream in 1 week, where we will open phase 3. I say bye, and all the rest probably too. Bye.
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 Bye.